is up, you beautiful people out there on the internet? It is I, Michael Shockman. Welcome to our next episode in our series of D&D 5e Simplified, that being the second season on the races. This week we're going to be covering the gnomes, and we're going to be gnoming around and covering gnomes. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Really quick before we get started, please do me two really quick favors. It'll just take a second. First, please smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. Helps out immensely with the algorithm here on YouTube, so I really appreciate it. Secondly, please be sure to comment down below with what your favorite type of gnome is. Are you a fan of rock gnomes, being those tinker boys? Are you a fan of being a forest gnome, the kind of garden gnomes and people from the old gnome show from the 80s? Or are you a Snurf Neblin? And are you in the Underdark? Let me know down below. Anyway, folks, with that out of the way, let's dive into today's episode on the gnome. Alright, so the gnome, gnomes are, contrary to popular belief, actually bigger than halflings. They are generally maybe about 10 to 15% taller and a little bit broader than halflings are. Excuse me. They're also a lot more, whereas halflings are a lot more all about living in the world and being touched by fate. Gnomes are all about ingenuity. They're tinkers. They're honestly, to be perfectly honest, they're an awful. The D&D 5e gnomes are an awful lot like the gnomes after a fashion from World of Warcraft, in certain aspects. They're a lot more about using ingenuity and intelligence to be able to get them what they need to, whereas halflings are far more about jiving with nature and with praying to their gods and everything like that. Not to say that gnomes don't have gods, they do, but just different take on the same basic little type of thing. Anyway, we're going to dive now into the mechanics of the gnome. First off, all gnomes, going with what I just said, get an ability score increase to their intelligence of +2. Their age is as such. Gnomes mature at the same rate humans do, and most are expected to settle down into an adult life at around age 40. They can live 350 to almost 500 years, so they're actually a lot more long-lived than halflings or even most of the other races, even dwarves even. Their size, gnomes are between 3 and 4 feet tall, again, bigger than halflings, and they are usually average of around 40 pounds. Their size is small. Their walking speed is 25 feet because of those little stubby legs. They have dark vision. We already know what that means. They do, however, get the 60-foot dark vision, which just for those of you who don't know, dark vision for most races means you get 60 feet in dim light as if it were bright light, and 60 feet beyond that in darkness as if it were in dim light, just so you're aware. And you can't see color, you only get it in grayscale. Going forward, just so you guys know, I'm not going to be covering that. They get dark vision. They also get something called Gnome Cunning, which allows them to have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic, which is kind of cool. Their languages are that they can speak, read, and write Common and Gnomish. A little bit about the Gnomish language. The Gnomish language, which uses the Dwarvish script, is renowned for its technical treatises and its catalogs of knowledge about the natural world, which is kind of cool. Now focusing on the two sub-races, we have two of them. Well, technically we have three, but one of them only gets a little mention. We'll go with the little mention one first. Those are the deep notes, Snurf Neblins, like I mentioned in the comment section. They're kind of like the Underdark gnomes. Enough said, look them up, they're really cool. Anyway, going with the first statted one, we have forest gnomes. As a forest gnome, you have a natural knack for illusion and inherent quickness and stealth. In the worlds of D&D, forest gnomes are rare and secretive. They gather in hidden communities in sylvan forests, using illusions and trickery to conceal themselves from threats or to mask their escape should they be detected. Forest gnomes tend to be friendly with other good-spirited woodland folk, and they regard elves and good fae as their most important allies. These gnomes also befriend small forest animals and rely on them for information about threats that might prowl their lands, which is kind of cool. As for their mechanical stuff, in addition to their +2 to intelligence, they also get a +1 to their dexterity, as well as natural illusionist. They know the minor illusion cantrip, and intelligence is the spellcasting ability for it. And they also have speak with small beasts. Through sounds and gestures, you can communicate simple ideas with small or smaller beasts. Forest gnomes love animals and often keep squirrels, badgers, rabbits, moles, woodpeckers, and other creatures as beloved pets. So kind of if Radagast the Brown was a race in D&D, he'd probably be a gnome, to be perfectly honest. A forest gnome at that. And that kind of brings us on to the second sub-race that has a stat block, which are rock gnomes. As a rock gnome, you have a natural inventiveness and that's a long word. You have natural inventiveness and hardiness beyond that of other gnomes. Most gnomes in the world of D&D are rock gnomes, so they're the most common, including the Tinker gnomes of the Dragonlance setting. In addition to their standard +2 to intelligence, they also get a +1 to their constitution. They also get something called Artificer's Lore. Whenever you make an intelligence check for history related to magic items, alchemical objects, or technological devices, you can add twice your proficiency bonus instead of any proficiency bonus you normally would apply. And last but not least, they get something called Tinker. This is going to be a bit, so buckle up. You have proficiency with artisan's tools, aka Tinker's tools. Using those tools, you can spend 1 hour at... Excuse me, guys. You can spend 1 hour and 10 gold pieces worth of materials to construct a tiny clockwork device, AC 5, 1 HP. The device ceases to function after 24 hours, so it's kind of like a wind-up toy, unless you spend 1 hour repairing it to keep the device functioning, or when you use your action to dismantle it. At that time, you can reclaim the materials used to create it. You can have up to 3 such devices active at a single time. When you create a device, choose from the following list. We have Clockwork Toy. This toy is a clockwork animal, monster, or person, such as a frog, a mouse, a bird, a dragon, or a soldier. When placed on the ground, the toy moves 5 feet across the ground in each of your turns in a random direction. It makes noise as appropriate to the creature that it represents. Next, we have Firestarter, basically a lighter. The device produces a miniature flame which you can use to light a candle, torch, or campfire. Using the device requires your action, interestingly enough. And last but not least, we have Music Box. When opened, this box plays a single song at a moderate volume. The box stops playing when it reaches the song's end or when it is closed. That's kind of cool. I really like the fact that as a rock gnome, you can make a lighter. So you basically don't have to worry about having magic or having flint and tinder. You can just spend an hour, as long as your DM allows you to, and you can just make a lighter. That's kind of cool, I think. Last but not least, we're going to now move on to my final thoughts on gnomes. Frankly, using Critical Role, as some of you want to know that I usually do as a basis for comparison, I really like gnomes. Scanlan Shortholt was a gnome. Pike Driftfoot was a gnome. They are some of the greatest heroes in D&D stories that I know are gnomes. And as such, I think that they're a very versatile race. I think that they're really, they've got a lot of options, and I think they're really cool. I've never played a gnome, and for that matter, I've never played a halfling, but if I had to choose, if I was given a choice between playing a halfling or playing a gnome, I'd probably pick a gnome every time. Anyway, folks, that's going to about do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do me a really quick favor. It'll just take a second. Please follow the links down in the description. You know what they do. You know where they go. You know what to do. I'm Michael Shockman, folks. I've been your host and commentator. And remember, as always, keep it real, keep it safe, keep it healthy, and we'll see you guys again soon in the Institute. Bye-bye, guys.